You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
I'm Katrina, and I love anime.
I'm Steven, and I'm aware of anime.
But what if that affection could rub off?
Perhaps that excitement in her eyes got me curious.
I could offer up some solid anime.
I could give them a watch, just to see what all the fuss is about.
And maybe, just maybe,
I could learn to love anime too.
Welcome to Inspired by a Weeaboo. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Inspired by a Weeaboo. I am your host Katrina, and with me is my husband Steven.
Hello.
We just finished episode 7 of Fullmetal Alchemist. Steven, what did you think?
Well, I can see you're heartbroken.
I was literally fighting back tears. I'm still fighting back tears.
I remember you telling me about this episode. You never went into great detail, but you have always told me little snippets about it. Didn't realize it was so early in. I felt like there was some more story to be told, like they were going to flesh out just a little bit more. And I had a hunch Nina was the girl that I remember you talking about. And clearly I was right. I was really surprised they did not allow the story to kind of stretch out a little bit, because I felt like, now granted, this is just from my perspective, I felt like fleshing them out just a little bit more and getting more attached to Nina over the course of a few more episodes would have made this a lot more heartbreaking for me personally.
Yeah.
Because I felt like we just got to know her, and then this happened, because we never got any kind of sinister vibes from Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment this episode started, it was like sinister.
Yeah.
It was like, oh shit, this took a turn. And then we start to unravel certain little mysteries about him. We find out that they may have talked about that in the last episode, that he had created a speaking chimera.
Yes, that he had created. That's what got him to be a state alchemist.
Right, and that was like his claim to fame. It's
yes.
like, oh, that was the thing he did. And it was one of those things that is very similar to some stuff. I can't remember what episode that we watched prior to, where it was like, oh yeah, I think it was about the guy that was bringing people back to life in the first 2 episodes, where it was like, oh yeah, they came back to life, but it's like, oh, did you see him? It's like, somebody heard something. It was something that just seemed like it washed away. And I guess I was following the clues as Ed was, because for some reason the wife dying I wasn't connecting those dots. And then as they were putting it together, I was like, oh, okay, I'm starting to connect those dots now.
Yeah.
So I had it figured out about the time he said it, that the Chimera was the wife, and that's why she spoke. And then son of a bitch did it again, turned his own daughter into a Chimera with the dog. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Now, I am curious, because they keep mentioning a serial killer, and I'm assuming he's not that guy.
Oh, Scar? The one with the giant scar?
No, I'm talking about Tucker was not.
Oh, no. Tucker's not the serial killer.
I'm assuming Scar was not either.
No.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's a plot thread we're going to come back to, because
yes.
I like that, because they're planting a seed for something happening. And I was curious, was like, so we're going to find out about this now, but they didn't. They just kind of touched on it, and then we've heard about it, but they haven't quite got around to it yet. So that's a thread we're going to pick up later. So I'm curious about that. But yeah, Ed started being very, would be the right term here, going against the book, or going against rules and regulations, because they were, he started wanting to look into the Chimera, and they told him that the files are restricted. You had to go to the brigadier general, and that son of a bitch can go to hell in a handbasket as far as I'm concerned, because he seems like he's been complacent. Something tells me he knew that was the wife too.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I have no doubt he knew that, because even as he knew what that was, it was all about well, we'll just make sure that he's, he's in trouble now and he's going away for a long time. But as Ed pointed out, you're just going to cover it up. And good on Ed for fucking standing up to the son of a bitch and even getting the wind knocked out of him. But by God, fuck him.
Yeah.
That guy pissed me off. Just how nonchalant he was about it. And he's been funding this son of a bitch to do all these. And there's no telling what else he's done. There's honestly no telling what else he's done that they've covered up. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really fucked up situation, and I hate it. And it is sad. I mean, I didn't get as emotional as you because I felt like I would need more time with the character for it to hit me harder. But I was saddened by it because it wasn't right, and it was really messed up.
I feel like the way that they play on it is because, you see those little snippets because they do kind of like little collages of them playing with her and everything else. But I think it boils down to the fact that she was 5 years old.
Yeah.
She was a little bitty baby. And she loved her father, unconditionally loved her father. She literally loved him even after he did what he did. And it's just heartbreaking. And then the way that she meets her end is even more heartbreaking because you would hope that it's painless, but still she literally got obliterated.
Yeah.
And it's not just her fucking dog.
Yeah. And so we got introduced to Scar.
Yes.
And I'm assuming his story will get fleshed out as we go along because it was very simple in how we kind of got introduced to him. He was coming into the, I guess, archives.
Yes.
As Ed was walking out, and then we get to see the tattoo on his arm. He didn't really go into great detail about that. He kept saying something about a brother.
Yes.
And it almost seemed like he was talking to himself, but also talking to someone in his head. I wasn't quite sure about that. So if there's something more to that, we'll figure it out later. I don't want anything spoiled for me. But he seems to be able to do anti-alchemy, it seems, because that's
I guess you could call it like anti-alchemy.
Because he undid. I mean, Ed was willing to do it too. Like, he was wanting to try and fix what Tucker had done, but Tucker told him, there's no way to undo it. You're just going to kill them both and you'll wind up with the same mess you had with your mom, which prevented him from doing it. But then Scar, he could tell that something was amiss and he was just trying to put her out of her misery.
Yeah.
And, just used his power to do so.
Yeah. Yes. Scar's one of those that kind of straddle a fence on good and bad. He has good intentions to a point, but he does some really questionable shit. And while he did have good intentions with Nina, and the fact that, he does stress that he can sense she's in pain, it is good that, she didn't have to suffer anymore. But it's tragic.
Yeah.
Because she was a person. And I think that's the thing that makes it so heartbreaking is it's like she just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
She was a child. She had a life. She loved people. People loved her. And now she just doesn't fucking exist because the army's going to sweep it under the rug. And there's literally no fucking remains of her.
And her father was a piece of shit.
Oh, yes. Tucker is a absolute steaming pile of shit.
Yeah, because honestly, that's a man who gave two shits about his wife, gave two shits about his child.
Yep.
He didn't give a damn about anything but whether or not he could make it up in the ranks with the alchemy board and whatnot.
Not even as much up in the ranks. He just wanted to basically live. Yeah, he wanted to live a good life, but just wanted, like he said, I did it just to see if I could. It's like that whole, like you think of freaking murderers and stuff like that who have said shit in the real world. I killed him just to see if I could, or I killed him just to see what it felt like. That's the same fucking mentality. He was a messed up individual. And I have no doubt that the wife was going to leave him and take Nina. And that's why he did what he did.
And I'm honestly surprised it took him this long to do that to her. Because they said it had been 2 years. And granted, year 1 would have been when he did that to her, got his certification. The year prior, he did mention that he didn't quite live up to expectations or whatever. So why bother waiting around? I mean, shit, you might as well have just done it to her then. I mean, you wouldn't have had the Elric brothers sniffing around and figuring shit out.
I feel like some part of him probably cared for Nina, at least because you never see him. He never snaps on her, never gets angry with her. Like, he seems to love her. But I feel like the biggest driving point would probably be not to raise suspicion, because if his wife died, and then his daughter all of a sudden goes missing, and if you notice, it's not like he tells the same people the same story.
That's true. He's a
piece of work.
And they really just, that really seemed to be the focal point of the story, was just unraveling his mysteries. And I appreciate Hughes trying to help Ed regardless. He understood that there were rules and stuff like that, but he was like, well, you could ask this and that. And he was trying to help, but obviously he did kind of give that piece of the puzzle that Ed was looking for. Yeah. Because the moment he mentioned the wife being dead, because Tucker had told Ed that she was just gone, right? Like,
yes, because he told Nina that she ran off to live with her parents, and told Ed and Al that, she left them because she couldn't handle being poor, and then he became a state alchemist. But as far as the military knew, his wife had died before he ever came to the city.
Mm-hmm. He had stories for days, so I am angry about it. Don't misunderstand that I'm not crying because I don't care. I'm angry.
It takes a lot to make you cry, and I can understand you're not attached to her.
But there are things. I don't know if we've ever mentioned it here. We may have early on. I don't know. I can't remember. But Katrina knows this wholeheartedly. Logan will make me cry every time.
Oh yeah.
And it's not because Wolverine's dying at the end. It's because of watching his daughter cry over him dying. And then I put myself in that situation of me and my own daughters. Mm-hmm. And then it just brings up so many emotions about that whole scenario. And that's what gets me. Because I can relate to that. And this, I can't necessarily relate in that regard, but I'm angry because of the situation. I wouldn't want to see that happen to a little girl like that. It would make me angry. I'm like Ed in this situation. I feel his anger. I get where he's coming from, and I would have beat the shit out of that dude too.
Oh yeah.
Without hesitation. I'm glad he took a few punches in. I'm glad that Al didn't really try to hold him back. He was telling him to just ease up, but still.
Yeah, and that's just because,
don't kill him.
Yeah, he didn't want his brother to kill somebody.
But I think Al would have taken a punch if it had gotten to him just the right way. I don't think he wasn't. I'm sure. I can understand he was probably upset too, but at the same time, even as all this happened, there was purpose to it.
Yeah.
In the sense that it gave Ed something to reflect on. And I wouldn't compare what he did to what Tucker did.
No.
In no way is that equal. But that idea of you're searching, you're wanting to see what you can do.
Yeah.
There's a little truth to that, to Ed. He has been trying to push the limits and see what he can do. He's still trying. Yeah. Wanting to try and get Al his body back. So as angry as you are at Tucker and everything, he speaks some truth in what he's saying to Ed in that moment. And it's hard to deny, because even though you don't want to buy it, but it's true. And I'm really curious how it all kind of unfolds. because, as we've seen, these are, I hate to use the term, but affront to God, as they say, and if he can't, if it's absolutely impossible to do right, then what hope does he have? It just feels like he's going down a path there's no good ending to it. And I don't want to think that. I want him to succeed, but I don't know. I don't know what it'll take. It's really messed up.
I mean, that is one of those things, and it hasn't even gotten... I mean, you're only seeing like such a small part of this story, and the more and more of the folds that just get peeled back, and the more you see and how it connects to this and that, just... I don't know. I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's a really good roller coaster of a ride.
Like I said, I'm enjoying it thus far, and I was not expecting this one so soon.
Well, like I said, like I did say off the mic, there you go, that I did look it up, for the Nina episode and everything. And in Brotherhood, it happens on episode 3, where here it happened... Oh, well, when they first meet her was episode 3. And here it happened on episode 6.
Right.
So it definitely happens a hell of a lot sooner in Brotherhood than it does in the original.
Yeah.
But it's still just as impactful, I feel.
I mean, I would hope so, because it needs to have that gut punch. You need to have that feeling that, you were trying to get to that. Because if they'd have introduced her and all this would have happened all at once, I don't feel like it would have had an impact. Now, granted, I still feel like having her around for a few more episodes would have allowed a bit more of an attachment, especially for myself. And it may have hit everyone a lot harder for all those that it really does affect. But I mean, for me, for a narrative standpoint, it would have been a harder gut punch if it was somebody that we were there with, we had kind of followed. Great example would be the gut punch we all got. Spoilers if you've not seen The Walking Dead. This show's been on for 11 damn years or longer. But when the one little girl whose name I can't remember, but she was like Carol's daughter, I think it was.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She went missing and they couldn't find her. And then come to find out she was down in this well. Or no, she was in a barn.
No, she was in a barn.
Yeah, and she had been locked up in this barn. And when you saw her walk out, we all just like... the air kind of sucked out of you. You're like, oh shit. Like we were all hoping that she was out there and they were going to find her, and we all should have known she was a goner, but there was no trace of her. We hadn't seen her. The last thing we thought that she was in that barn, and then she just comes out walking, and it was just a gut punch for everybody. But she was a character we had seen, for a few seasons, and it wasn't that 2 or 3 at that point, I think. But we'd seen her. We'd been with her for a couple episodes. We had hope that we were going to see her again. We were going to find her. And then, gut punch. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. Is had I got to know her a little bit more and gotten more attached to her and watched them bond with her, I think it would have hit me a hell of a lot harder than it did here. It makes me angry. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But to have the emotional... gut punch it gives you, it would have taken just a little bit more for me to really get to know her. So, but it still sucks, and I'm sure this isn't the only gut punch we're gonna get.
No, it is not.
So, this show seems like it's where I give it credit, because they do this wonderful balance of good storytelling, levity where it's needed, and then they'll bring it back and just kick you in the teeth.
They remind you that it's, it is dark. Like, there's a lot of light humor and everything else, but this is one of those animes that I feel like has a very, very dark backstory. And I feel by the end, and especially by the movie, you understand why. Right. But I'm ready for episode 8. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, if it can kind of wash the
bad taste out your mouth.
Well, I don't want to call it a bad taste. It was a good episode, just a gut-wrenching one, so.
The sad taste out your mouth. How's that?
There you go. Well, guys, tell all your friends, all your other little weeb friends, that they can listen wherever they listen to their favorite podcast. They can listen early on Patreon at patreon.com/pencilpaperproductions. You can listen on YouTube, youtube.com/pencilpaperproductions. You can also find us on pencilpaperproductions.com/inspired Weeaboo. All of these links are down below, so click them and go find them. And just make it easy for yourself.
All right, my little weebs. Until next time.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.